evidence-based research and policy engagement. Globally, we work with partners in over 50 countries, and in India, we work across 20 states. Next slide, please. So, over the past 3 years, WRI India has been working closely with MSMEs in the state of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu to better understand how the climate risks are actually affecting businesses and what can be done to strengthen their resilience. We all know that MSMEs are the backbone of India's economy, and as they contribute significantly to the employment, industrial growth, and development and climate goals. However, they are increasingly exposed to the climate risk, and extreme heat along with humidity is emerging as a major concern. So these rising temperatures are actually leading to the loss of labor hour and job losses across industrial sector as being reported by different national and international reports. So as heat event becomes, more frequent and intense, it is actually important that to understand that how these impacts and also identify the practical solutions, which is becoming increasingly important now. Next slide, please. So, realizing this fact and realizing the exposure of the climate risk to the industries and even to the workers. So, at WRI India, our work actually began with an extensive engagement across the MSME ecosystem where we worked with enterprise, industry association, local institutions, and also the state government to understand both the risk and also the opportunities for actions. We have actually undertook a very detailed data driven exercise to understand and identify the industrial clusters and their exposure to the climate risk, particularly heat and flood risk. We also conducted a very detailed vulnerability assessment covering more than 300 plus MSMEs and 100 workers through enterprise surveys, focus group discussion, and consultations with the workers. And building on this, we also conducted a number of capacity building sessions. Next slide, please. So, what we really found from our this comprehensive research that heat stress is something which is no longer simply an environmental issue. This is actually becoming a business challenge. From the survey that we actually conducted, we found that a large majority of MSMEs reported that heat is already affecting their operations. Rising temperatures are driving up energy costs, causing operational disruptions and reducing overall efficiency. At the same time, enterprises are actually seeing this growing impact on workers' productivity and health, which directly affects their business performance. However, what emerges is that despite these challenges, the most of the MSMEs continue to view heat as a routine operational issue rather than a business risk. We found that the responses tend to be reactive and short term, focused mainly on very basic coping measures such as provision of drinking water or very basic ventilation facilities which is available. But the more structured approaches to heat management, whether it's investment in worker protection systems or heat action plan, cool roofs, insulations, and other heat resilient infrastructure, remains very limited. So all these findings actually highlight both the scale of the challenges but also the significant opportunity that we have in order to strengthen the resilience within the industrial sector today. I'm also pleased to share that a very detailed report presenting the full findings and recommendations from this study will be released in June. So we'll be happy if to share that report with all the people out here. Next slide, please. So as I said that in the capacity building sessions, which is based on the findings that we got, we realized that awareness is actually one of the biggest challenges, the MSMEs face. They're not aware about, how the business are impacting them or the possible solutions. So we conducted, these several workshops with MSMEs across Surat, Chennai, and Coimbatore to discuss the impact and the possible solutions, connecting them with some of the solution providers as well. Worker awareness sessions were organized to support better management of the heat stress as well. And for wider outreach, we also distributed more than 1,000 awareness posters, as you can see on the screen, across 100 MSMEs. These materials were also developed in the regional languages of Hindi, Gujarati, and Tamil to ensure accessibility for diverse worker communities. So as we move forward, one of the most important lessons that we learned during this entire exercise is that building, resilient industries will actually require a very coordinated action across policy, finance, industry, and worker support systems. And this is exactly what today's discussion is intended to explore also. So, thank you so much once again for joining this session. And I hand it over to Midula. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna, for that overview and for also nicely setting the context. Now, before we move into the panel discussion, we would like to share a short video from our partner organization, Social Compact, which reflects some of the challenges faced by workers. Yeah.
दोपहर में काफी धूप होने की वजह से काफी दम घुटने लगता है और फिर हम लोग आराम करते हैं, थोड़ा फिर ग्लूकोन डी वगैरह पीते हैं, फिर काम पे लगते हैं। इसमें गर्मी बहुत भीषण है। 12 से 3 के बीच में बहुत तेज धूप लगता है। 9 से 1 हम लोग काम करते हैं, ये क्योंकि उस 1 बजे तो ऐसा हो जाता है कि मतलब प्राण निकल जाएंगे। कभी कभी ऐसा हो जाए, कोई लेबर चक्कर आ जाता है तो बेहोश हो जाए, भाई बैठो उसको ग्लूकोज पिलाते हैं, पानी पिलाएंगे, वो बैठेगा आधा घंटा, फिर बाद में काम लगेगा। ऐसा आप क्या करना पड़ता है।
11 बजे और 2 बजे करीब 2 के 3 बीच में इतने खिलाता है ना, जो मत पूछो। लगता है कि काम ना कर रहे, लेकिन एक मजबूरी पेट के वजह से काम करने पड़ता है। खुजली आता है, पसीना पूरा आता है, जैसे पसीना कोई अगल बगल आवे तो उसको खुशबू से आदमी खाना ना खा सके, ऐसे खुशबू आता है।
पूरा पसीना का गीला गीला हो जाता है, थोड़ा कुछ हो गया पूरा शरीर में। देखते ना अभी क्या हो गया, देखो लाल निकल गया है, सब कर रहा है। पर भी वो खाने पीने के लिए तो इनकम करना पड़ेगा ना। धूप में माथा सर गर्म हो जाता है।
और गर्मी के वजह से कभी भी काम रुका है क्या?
रुका है। रुक जाता है, जब ज्यादा तबीयत खराब हो जाता तो दिल लेकर तो रोकना ही पड़ता है, रुक जाते हैं।
मैनेज करते हैं वही तकलीफ से भी। देखिए गर्मी हो गया, अभी हम लोग एक छोटा तल पत्री के घर में रहते हैं, तो जब खाना बन जाता है, स्टोव और गैस जल जाता है ना, तो लगता है कि बदन को चुलचुला जैसे कीली होता है, तो चुल ऐसा कपड़ा खोलने आ रहे, बोरिया बिस्तर उठाने आ रहे, इधर घास के इधर छाव के इधर चलो सो जाते हैं।
और मतलब काम जहाँ आप काम करते हैं वहाँ कैसे मैनेज करते हैं?
काम करते हैं भाई, थोड़ा हवा पानी, थोड़ा गाछ पीछे इधर उधर थोड़ा छुपक छापक के तो रहने पड़ता है। यदि कोई इंसान मिलता है तो थोड़ा बोलता है कूलर लगा दिया, नहीं तो थोड़ा पंखा लगा दिया। इंसान मिलता है तो मेहमान मिलते हैं तो बोलो काम करो, जल्दी काम करो, आपको मजदूरी दे रहा हूँ, जल्दी काम करो।
अच्छा,
तो वैसा समय निकालने पड़ता है।
नहीं मैडम, तो हम लोग तो अभी देखिए अपना काम तो है नहीं, अभी हम लोग लेबर पे हैं। जैसे होता है ना, एक दिन का लेबर एक मतलब हाजिरी बोलते हैं, हाजिरी पे काम करते हैं ना, तो हम लोग को दिन भर काम ही करना पड़ता है। ऐसा कुछ ये नहीं रहता है कि आपको कुछ भी हो जाए, दिन भर का दिन तो ही भरना ही पड़ेगा, काम तो करना ही पड़ेगा।
नहीं, अगर काम करने का माहौल देखेंगे तो सेफ्टी देखेंगे पहले, सेफ्टी में चलेंगे। यानी कि गर्मी रहता है, कुछ पानी रहे, कुछ भी रहे या कोई भी और चीज रहे, तो अगर अपने को कीला लगता है तो वो सेफ्टी मेरे को चाहिए। चाहे मैं नाके से जाऊं या कोई कंपनी में रहूं, वो मेरे को सेफ्टी चाहिए। अगर मेरे को नाके से लेके जाता है कंपनी में तो मेरे को सेफ्टी देता है, लेकिन ये गर्मी बढ़ाता है, तो इसके लिए तो कुछ तो चाहिए, वो अपना सेफ्टी तो रहेगा।
तो सेफ्टी में आप क्या मिलता है आपको और क्या और मिलना चाहिए?
सेफ्टी में अपने अभी गर्मी है, जैसा तो सा ठंडा पानी जैसा हो गया, नॉर्मल पानी सेफ्टी पहले तो रहना चाहिए। अगर एक आदमी ब्रेकर चलाता है, वो अगर यानी कि चक्कर खा गया तो बस सामने से रहना चाहिए उसको। दूसरा सेफ्टी में जो है, अपने को जूता तो अपने को चाहिए, चाहे कंपनी से जाऊं या नाके से जाऊं, या मेरे को खुद को क्यों ना लेना पड़े, वो तो चाहिए अपने को।
गर्मी के लिए यदि वातावरण को सेट को थोड़ी अच्छा समझ में आवे तो सूती कपड़ा दे दे, सूती का पजामा दे दे, तो उससे थोड़ा आधा गर्मी का राहत खत्म हो जाता है।
Thank you for that video, Toril. It has really set the context for this discussion now. We'll now move on to the panel discussion. To moderate the session, I'd like to invite Gautam from Social Compact. Over to you, Gautam.
Thank you, Mridula. So from the video itself, you all see how the heat is affecting the workers today. It's not a problem that you have to address tomorrow. It is happening as we speak. It is not just affecting their health. It is also affecting the safety and also the productivity at their workplace. Hi, everybody. My name is Gautam. I work with Social Compact. As you can see from the slide, Social Compact works with companies and industry ecosystems to improve blue-collar worker practices. And we specifically focus on the informal workers. We have worked across 70 companies, more than 70 companies, 100 plus sites. And from that, we have realized that heat manifests in different cases. So it could be poor ventilation in the factories. It could be the lack of cooling infrastructure at the work sites. And also it goes beyond their work sites also. Exposure of heat during their commute back to their homes. And also, you all know how migrant workers are mostly living in cramped tin-roofed shanties. And that also adds on to the whole issue. So in today's session, why we are having this session is that heat is not something that is very new. It is not niche. It has been happening for the last decade. It is an urgency that has to be addressed. And a lot of industries, when we have interacted with them, we understood that the awareness with regard to the solutions have remained low. So in that prospectus, we have a diverse set of speakers who are going to address broadly two main objectives. One is practical solutions for workers and businesses to address the heat stress. And the second is how these solutions can be adopted and scaled before the next heat season arrives. So now I'll just briefly introduce you to the speakers. So we have Mr. Ponram Pandian, who is the founder and owner of Unicon Engineers, which is an MSME based out of Tamil Nadu. And next we have Vijay Kumar. Vijay Kumar is a senior partner at Conserve Consultants. He is an architect and also a green building expert. Third, we have Phalgun Vyas. Phalgun is the founder of Sukoontech, which developed a cooling vest for workers. And then we have Himani. Himani is a senior associate at Work Fair and Free Foundation, where they work extensively with informal workers and migrant workers as well. And last, we have Mr. Amitesh Ahir. He is the Senior Vice President, Reinsurance for Climate Risk at Howden Insurance Brokers. And yeah. And now I think we can jump into the panel. First of all, I'll just like to invite Mr. Ponram. Mr. Ponram Pandian, you have you are like a MSME owner. So could you just briefly tell us on how the rising heat is affecting the business as well as the workers, and what you have done to address it? And you also work with WRI also, so you could just touch upon all of those.
Yeah. Thank you for WRI for inviting us for this panel discussion. We worked with the WRI in the last about 4 years, from 2022. From 2022, 4 years we are having the association with WRI and various engagements. One is this heat stress. What we did is we have sensitized the MSMEs in Coimbatore. I'm a treasurer of an association, MSME association called Codisia, Coimbatore District Small Industries Association. It has got about 1,800 active members. Overall membership is around 6,000. So active members are there, and we have a variety of industries in our membership pool. First thing is what we started is to have this heat stress awareness program we have conducted, and we distributed the posters to the units. And this is the beginning, just the beginning. And unit wise also WRS has visited. One of the unit is mine. So they visited, they sensitized the supervisors and the workforce how they can protect this. Major challenge is the awareness among the MSME owners and the workforce also. There are certain infrastructures available, whether it is not properly placed also. And it's only an ignorance, and we have sensitized in our unit, and and we have collected a list of issues, challenges in this. And what we did is initially we are having a water point only in the 2 points, now increased to 4 points, so that closely they can reach out to the workforce. And we have made some temporary sheds where more sunlight is there so that they can work. So we cannot build the infrastructure in one fine day in MSMEs. And during the summer time, we have made small shift in the shift timings. Peak sunlight period, we have just made some shifting arrangement. And we are giving conventional buttermilk in our place during the peak time. And lemon juice we have given, ORSL juice. So all these mitigation measures were taken. Initially, we were doing this buttermilk long time back. But after WRI intervention, these things have happened. So, and they are also using it. That's the only thing is all the workforce, they take it positively and they are using it. And major problem in this heat stress will come is the once workforce, they become tired, they will try to go for rest. And there is a lot of absenteeism. And they try to go home also, because in southern region, we are totally depending on the migrant laborers from other states. So they feel like they're working in a hot summer. So better this is the time to take vacation. They would like to, it's like a summer vacation, they like to go back. And after summer is over, they would like to come and join. So this one trend we have analyzed. So we are trying to do a lot of changes. Then we have got a hostel also for our employees. We did a lot of changes in the hostel infrastructure. So more of ventilations we have created. So this has improved our working, and absenteeism has come down drastically, and productivity also fairly improved. Still a lot more to do in the way we'll understand and they can implement it. And I have to get inputs from other members, because many members have participated. We want to understand from them soon. During the next meeting, I'll be able to share it with you. Thank you.
That's really great, Mr. Ponram. Thank you for sharing. I think these are like very practical steps that you have like implemented for your workers. And also you are part of a collective, and like you are like getting the inputs from me, and this is being collectively dealt with also. I think that is also like a core thing that has to happen, and it needs to be understood that MSME or like a smaller unit cannot address the whole issue by themselves. There needs to be like a lot of dissemination of information within the other MSME units also. Thank you. And you talked about absenteeism. Like, is there something that you've done with respect to absenteeism? And also want to understand, are there any challenges that you have not been able to address?
Yeah, still what we are unable to mitigate is for the entire workforce making a covered area. It's a major hurdle, because ours 50% is inside the factory, 50% is outside. And one initiative recently what we have taken is to plant a lot of trees. Already we have a lot of trees, about 100, plus another matured trees we have taken out from about 35 years old trees which have to be cut. We have removed and replanted in the factory. So that is going to give you a lot of share and shade, and they will be able to get a better shade, and due to the watering, and they will feel more comfortable in that area. We are taking various steps.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Pandian. That really helps. I think now we can actually go into the next speaker also. I think that is a good connection also, how you spoke about the building and having a roof over your head also, which can really help the workers. As you mentioned, like 50% of your workers are like outside of your building and 50 are inside. And it is not the case actually that the workers who are like working inside a building or inside a structure are finding it like very easy to work in this heat. So that is also where like we'll bring in Mr. Vijay Kumar. So Mr. Vijay Kumar is the senior partner at like Conserve Consultants. He is an architect by profession, and he also is a green building. He has a green building certification. So Mr. Vijay Kumar, like what are the biggest design gaps that you normally see across like industrial spaces, and like what can MSMEs do to like improve these or like close these gaps?
Yeah, good evening, Gautam. Again, thanks to WRI for giving us this opportunity, to share our experiences with, MSMEs or budding industrial leaders. I feel this is the platform, where if we share our experiences, they are very eager to learn from us and they can adopt immediately, as at the earliest, to whatever extent it's feasible. Very good question. It's an appropriate question. So I find, before even getting into my session, I would again remind all the participants that, worldwide environmental scientists, researchers, and leaders concluded that one point very clearly, that we cannot reverse the climate change. We are planning to only restrict our temperature increase, compared to pre-industrial age to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So the heat is going to rise, increase, maybe bit year on year. So we have to be prepared for it. So currently, I would say, if you can go to the next slide. I just put an image that showing which are the routes through which, heat can come inside. Whenever there is a factory shed or factory building, through roof, through skylight, because we find a lot of MSMEs or small scale factories, you will have skylights to bring in daylight. Roof could be a simple tin metal roof, tin roof or metal roof, and there will not be any insulation typically. And also many times there will be poor shading from surrounding. In fact, in Chennai, OMR, or even our office is located in a kind of a industrial area where we find almost no trees. So also the lighting system, which is you use typically inside the building for lighting your spaces, workspaces or manufacturing spaces. The lighting also can cause heating, because and again, people who are there present inside the workers and employees, they also produce heat, excrete heat, and then equipment. Whatever the current we are passing to the manufacturing equipment for production purpose, ultimately it gets converted into heat. That also stays inside, unless we, kind of a designed way or a proper way we take it out from the spaces. Again, okay, from outside to inside, some heat can come inside. These are the various ways, but we find that mostly, the roof material is not adequate in terms of heat protection, and also limited ventilation. The windows are not planned. Either it is a very small window, or windows are not there. Even windows are there, it is operated in closed condition, and then equipments and people are packed, much more the way which can be handled through the heat transfer ventilation system. Again, MSMEs cannot afford to go for a comfort AC cooling like commercial IT parks or any office buildings, where you can put a AC which consumes energy, lot of energy, and produces cooling, and you maintain 24 degrees centigrade. I would say, can you go to the next slide? No. Yeah, so we find, as Ponram again said, that cool roofs. So this cool roof, what we say that we don't need to go for a cool roof. We can choose, whenever they replace this thing, roofing sheet, they can go for a light colored roofing sheet. That itself will address, because it can reflect the heat by almost 70 to 85 or 90% if well planned. Solar reflectant index paint, or in case of concrete roof, you can go for a cool roof tiles, which will be, in terms of life, it will be much higher. These are the easiest ways. You choose a light colored sheet in case if you're planning for a new setup, or in case of the existing setup also, you can try for a cool roof paint, or the best way also is to install solar PV systems. Nowadays most of the commercial buildings or factories also, some percentage, some load of interior lighting or minor loads are planned to meet through solar PV system, which can be installed above your roof, which will generating some portion of energy which can be used for your simple loads, Also, it will cut down your heat transfer. It will act as an insulation layer above your roof. It will reduce the heat transfer, which in turn improves. Generally it is observed that with cool roof paint and part of an insulation, a simple false ceiling on the roof itself, can cut down the indoor temperature rise by 10 degrees centigrade. Generally, if you have a simple metal sheet, you will achieve some 10 degree higher compared to your ambient temperature because of accumulated heat within the space, which is not evacuated properly. Just by going in for a cool roof or roof insulation, you can achieve better comfort inside. As Sir said, again, some shades or trees also can be planted. Cross ventilation. Again, there are standards available now. The very key important standard is National Building Code of India, which can be referred, how much ACH. Some ACH figures I mentioned, like factories, 8 to 10 ACH, air changes per hour. How much air change has to happen? It's all kind of a simple term. Anybody can browse it and understand it. So this is the when you say ventilation, normally we talk in ACH, air changes per hour. Typically 10 ACH has to be targeted for a factory which is produces a simple heat, low grade heat, whereas in foundries and other kind of factories we may have to go for a higher ACH that can be achieved only through exhaust system. Whereas these kind of 8 to 10 ACH we found that we can achieve through simple openings and rich kind of monitors with louvers. So proper planning, through proper planning at the right stage of the design, we can achieve it. So next step, can you go to next slide? So I just want to show one model. So here, see, we have what I showed is like previously some prescriptive measures, whereas we have some innovative technologies like computational fluid dynamics, CFD, and thermal comfort analysis tool. These kind of analysis can be done at a very simple cost, little cost. It will not be a major cost. Also, some simple small time consultants or architects. Nowadays, architects also doing it. Many architects are doing it. So we found that one of the forging factory, we actually helped the client in Bangalore side to green certify the building, green certify the factory building. And when after the certification, they were coming to us and saying, we have an existing factory there, the indoor temperature was very high. Workers were continuously complaining. All the employees were continuously complaining. The time of summer season, 3 to 4 months, they cannot work comfortably. So then we went to site and we did the model. The model, can you go to the next slide? What is the procedure we follow? Typically, we just take the model, architectural drawings, the plans, how it is located, and 3D model was created. And then we did a CFD. Again, I just would like to know, see, we are moving towards the digital age. Everything is more highly sophisticated. Everybody, I don't think anybody is there without a smartphone in their hand. So it's not that we cannot afford to spend money for the simulation. Yes, if you're not able to do, okay, you can be comfortable with prescriptive measures, what we had already discussed, which is well known. But still, many times, if you don't take any action at site, obviously the output you are not going to get, and that the business may not be sustainable, unless your production people, employees are productive and presence is there 100% or to meet your expected production capacity. So we say that yes, you can be comfortable with prescriptive measures, but if somebody can try out these kind of innovative technologies, so these are the procedures. We can do a CFD and find out how much ACH is there. So we did a ACH analysis. Can you go to the next page? So what was the ACH we did? So another standard. So I said National Building Code of India is one standard which explains you about how natural ventilation can be achieved in any building through openings sizes. Generally we say that at least 4% window opening should be there compared to your area, floor area. 4% is the bare minimum. You can just check that, and anybody can check it. How much is the openable window area? How much is there compared to your floor area? That should be minimum 4%. If you can aim for 8 to 10%, that will give a much better comfort, and it will bring in much ACH, natural ventilation inside. So NBC is one important code. It's very underutilized currently. National Building Code of India, which is a master standard which addresses A to Z of the systems which are present in the building, whether it is a commercial building or factory building. It has got everything in it. And there is another standard, ASHRAE 55, which explains how we can find out whether whatever condition existing inside, temperature, air velocity, RH, whether it is comfortable to the people who are present inside or uncomfortable. When I say comfortable, uncomfortable, again, for conditioned spaces, there is 24 degrees centigrade temperature limit, which can be achieved through air conditioning only. But now we are talking about for other non-air conditioned building or like factories or any other, other type of building, our target should be only 28 plus 2 degrees centigrade, not 24 degrees centigrade. Even if we achieve 30 degrees centigrade inside, it will be much more comfortable. That is a standard, people should keep in mind. National Building Code of India 2016 are the latest standard, and then ASHRAE 55 standard, which is again a simple standard, hardly 20 pages, but which explains about how we can achieve the thermal comfort inside any building, whether it is conditioned or air conditioned. So can you go to the next slide? So the 30 degree was the target. So before even getting into simulation, we found that we checked the windrows diagram, which is called windrows diagram. The moment you feed in the location in which your building is located, we can find out from which direction to which direction the maximum wind is flowing. If you see that in this table, west and east are almost 2,000 to 3,000 hours the wind is prevailing. So if you provide openings in these directions, east and west, we can promote cross ventilation. That's what we found out. So with this, we get to the next stage. Can you go to the next stage? So we did the simulation with the existing openings of that particular forging factory. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, this is something, how much was the air velocity existing. When I say air velocity, how fast it's moving without any external support. When I say active measures like exhaust fan or ceiling fan, what is the natural wind velocity which is coming across the factory floor? That was around, average was around 0.15 meter per second, and aging, how much time it is taking for the air particles to move from one location to another location, average time was 10 minutes. So can we go to the next look? With this, can you go to the next slide? So we had used that ASHRAE 55 standard. Again, I would say the CBE thermal comfort tool. Online, anybody can check it. You can access this. It's freely available. Most of the standards are either available at completely free or at very nominal cost. Like this CBE thermal comfort tool, what graph you are seeing, we need to input only temperature, operative temperature, air velocity, whatever CFD analysis we got it. Also, you can, in case if you can measure the air velocity with some anemometer, also you can measure it and put into this graph and see that RH, how much, what are the key inputs. Other these things are mostly standardized. One met and 0.6 flow is a standard value. Only we need to input temperature, RH, and air speed. In that case, when we found that initially it was the point should be within that blue bandwidth. As much it is away from the bandwidth, we can say it is uncomfortable. If it is falling within the blue bandwidth, we can say it is comfortable. So in this case, it was almost warm to hot. You can see that in the between +2 to +3. That is a kind of a Fanger index scale meant for thermal comfort analysis. So after what, can you go to the next slide? What we did is, so this is again ACH, which we, as it is, how much ACH we could achieve in that factory building was almost, average was, 7.
Could you wrap it in the next 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So can we go to the next slide? So with that, we actually proposed, earlier we found that, the existing 4G factory was having 50% openable windows. So sliding windows, we told them to replace with openable windows, 100% openable windows, and then increase the ridge monitor, which is at the top of the factory, which will allow provided with the louvers, which can improve the ventilation from the windows. It will come inside and go to the top through that. Once it gets heated air, it travels upwards. It goes to the ridge monitor, and through the louvers, it gets out. Through that, natural ventilation, we can achieve it. So after this adjustments, we again did the exercise. Can we go to the slide? Here, instead of earlier this thing 0.1 velocity, roughly it was in the range of 0.1, we could improve to 0.4. So see, 0.4 may look a very low value, But when you run in any room, if you run ceiling fan at high speed, your velocity is not more than only 1.5 or 1 meter per second. 1 meters per second, we cannot keep the papers. You'll feel very windy. So 0.4 is a reasonable achievement. Again, the time of this thing also, we could bring it to 9 minutes. Average was 9 minutes. Can we go to the next slide? So these are all some kind of tools available. So we could bring that the point of operation to very close to the comfort zone. It is not still 100% comfortable, but it was much better compared to previous situation. Can we go to slide? Can we go to next slide? Yeah, this ACH also we could improve from almost average velocity has been improved from 7 to 9 ACH. Yeah, can we go to next slide? I'll just run through my slides. See this when we talk about roofing sheet, yes, you have either an option of either adding insulation. Always it's better to add above the deck steel sheet, or if possible you can do under deck insulation also. Then the skylight. When you are having a skylight, you need to understand what is the SHGC, how much solar heat is traveling through your skylight. Conventional skylights brings in a lot of heat, whereas if you can go for a better efficient one, which can cut down, we call it SHGC, it will be the range of 0.2 to 0.4, which can cut down almost 50% of heat which is traveling through your skylight. See, skylight is bringing in daylight. I agree with you, but problem is outside our building, daylight, sunlight, it's in the range of 10,000 lux to 1 lakh lux, whereas our requirement inside our workspace is hardly 300 to 600 lux. So many times, through our windows glazing or through skylight, we bring in a lot of daylight. Along with it, a lot of heat also comes inside. You can restrict that through properly selecting your skylight glass type. When I say glass type, it is I'm meaning a solar heat gain coefficient, SHGC. We call it SHGC in our language. So that should be in the range of 0.2 to 0.4. So even for your window glazing, you don't need to keep clear glass. You can go for a simple sticker, simple sun control film sticker. All itself can cut down the heat by 50%. Again, as sir said, that the shade also will help you. Again, wherever there is a glass is there on your envelope across the wall, if you can provide some external shade, like some kind of bamboos, something like that, so you can cut down your heat to the maximum extent. One of the building in Delhi, which was a commercial air conditioned building, they provided external shade across all their movable external shades across all their glazing side, which will when sun is in the east side, this thing will be shaded. When sun is in the east side glazing will be completely shaded. From external, I'm not talking about internal screen. Externally hung across the window. Similarly, west also, when it is the evening, west side will be closed through that external shade. They achieved 50% HVAC energy consumption reduction. So that much heat can be cut down if we can take some appropriate measures, which have been well proven measures. So similarly, envelope, if you see that I am showing some bricks, porotherm brick, hollow block. These are the blocks. If somebody is constructing a factory brand new, they can definitely think about either porotherm wall or hollow block wall. So these measures are valuable when the heat generation within your factory is limited. Mostly the heat is coming from outside. Suppose when the heat is generated itself is very high, then these measures may not help too much to us. Then we need to think about various different measures. But for mostly MSMEs, I assume that we'll be within this limit. Again, we have double glazing, triple glazing. We need to select, if we can afford this thing. When the glass is not open, it's not kept in open condition, but whereas it is kept in closed condition, it will attract a lot of radiation heat. Once the heat comes inside through the glass, it will not go out, because the high temperature radiation is of low wavelength, which will penetrate through your glass. Once it gets inside, the wavelength gets increased. It becomes, high long wave heat length.
Yes, Mr. Vijay Kumar, I think
yeah.
is also
So these
there.
are the various measures we can take.
Okay.
Yeah, so in Andy, but you should keep in mind. So
Yes.
when yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Vijay Kumar. I think you covered like a wide variety of things. Like mostly, even in my mind, I think it is mostly the roofing that was the thing that had to be like controlled or like worked upon to like decrease the heat inside the building. But you did like cover a lot of things like ventilation, the cross ventilation especially, and having open windows, the air temperature inside and all of that you have mentioned. Thanks a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think if just to inform everybody, if you have any questions for any of the speakers, please do put down in the chat. We will take them up towards the end. Mr. Vijay Kumar won't be there. I think he has to leave a bit sooner. But if you have anything, we will definitely like convey it to him. Uh, so thank you on that. And next, I think now we've covered the infra part of it, and I think this is a good time for us to like talk about like a worker focused innovations. And for that, I'd just like to invite Mr. Phalgun Vyas. So Mr. Phalgun Vyas is like he's a graduate or a postgraduate from IIT Madras. He conceptualized and like developed the product when he was studying in IIT Madras. It is a cooling wearable that can be utilized by workers. I think it's a very innovative product in this age. I think a lot of people would require it. So could you just like briefly tell us on like how this was conceptualized, how this was developed, and like the kind of workers who can use it and the cost behind it also?
Yeah, thanks, Gautam, for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. So basically, as Gautam mentioned, the project actually started at the hostel of IIT Madras, where it is hot and humid, so we used to run to our labs because it was air conditioned. And by the time we would reach there, we would be completely drenched in sweat. So, we were just talking, and an idea came that wouldn't it be great if our clothes can give a cooling effect? That was the start of this idea. So we named the project Sukoon, which means comfort. And basically, we were tinkering around the different technologies of how can one integrate cooling systems into wearables. And we were initially doing it for ourselves while we were college students. And while we were working in the lab, we were visited by a company called Chennai Petroleum, which is a subsidiary of Indian Oil. They mentioned that, during the months of summer at site, it becomes very difficult to coordinate with the workers. They don't want to wear the mandated safety PPEs allocated, and that has been a friction. So they invited it. If there is a solution, it would be possible if we could try it out. So that was the movement towards the industrial direction. When we went on site, we understood that heat stress was not only about comfort, it was about safety, it was about productivity, and it was about health. So while we were working with visiting one company, we thought let's go a bit wider, and we talked to around 500 companies across India in construction, logistics, foundry, iron and steel, cement, power plants, any sector that you can imagine. We also talked to women who are cooking in the kitchen, every possible thing from B2B to B2C to B2G, everything you can imagine. And therein we felt that there are a lot of, so basically in the hierarchy of control, PPE, which is personal protective equipment, is the last line of defense. If nothing works, like engineering control and administrative controls don't work, everything falls on the PPEs then. So we thought this was a good idea to work on, and we started working primarily in the industrial sector as a starting point, where the person doesn't have an option of going and resting in the shade. They have to complete the work in a especially process driven factory. So that was the movement towards the industrial sector. Now, since the past 2 years, we have been working with companies like JSW, Aarti Industries, Zomato, L&T. So these guys, we have been coordinating with them. We've been doing different sets of trials, getting our variables, prototypes to get them used. And now we have reached a stage where we are at a commercial level ready TRL, and we are still exploring the product market fit. But the recent variables that we have developed for this summer have given a very strong performance on ground. So that's a bit about how the journey started and how we are in the industrial space. Now, for the second part of your question, which was regarding the cooling jackets. So cooling jackets have so there are different technologies. To overarching, there are 9 different technologies of cooling variables. From a simple evaporative cooling jacket to a very complicated thermoelectric material solution. So if you can show one of the slides that I gave Gautam, it would cover the jacket that we have ready right now.
Yes, 1 second.
Yeah.
Some technical issue ones.
Yeah.
Phalgun, I think there's a question for you on whether it can be used by gig. Maybe you can answer that already.
So basically for gig workers, we are working with Zomato right now, which is a gig worker economy, and therein the system is a bit different. What we do is we provide them, we give solutions to Zomato, and they subsidize the solution and then resell it to the gig worker. So that is the model that has worked with them, and we're still exploring at a very initial stage yet. But yeah, it can definitely be done for gig workers. And yeah, so this was the slide I wanted to show. So basically, as you can see, there are 3 different solutions that we have at a commercial level right now. So if you see the first, let's start with the blue phase. So blue phase is intended for a very heavy industrial manufacturing use. You can consider areas like furnaces, boilers, where temperature cross 70 degrees, 75 degrees. And this is where, so blue phase works on phase change materials. These use latent heat of fusion and melting to store cooling energy for longer periods of time. So you need to have a centralized refrigeration unit, and you take these phase change materials out, embed them inside the jacket, and then go to work. So this is one of the strongest cooling jackets that we have. Second is a blue pulse jacket, which uses active airflow and evaporation. This uses a power bank to run. As you can see in the photo, there are 2 fans attached on the backside of the garment. This is an idea inspired by a Japanese innovation. And inside the jacket, there's an inner layer which gives a radiating and an evaporating cooling effect. You can take a picture of this slide where you can see there is a QR code, so you can maybe go into the detail. And then there is the blue ride, which we have developed for the delivery riders and MSMEs, where there is already a fan installment at the site. This solution is one which we have developed just a month back, and we are doing the field trials right now. So apart from this, there are more complicated technologies which uses sensorized materials, vapor compression loops, but those become a bit difficult to adopt, mainly because of the cost point of view. And so these are the 3 solutions that are commercially ready that we can do it in India. One of the finer points here was that so heat is so basically heat is comprised of temperature and humidity. A delivery worker in Delhi versus a iron and steel worker in Chennai will face very different conditions. So that is the problem of not a one generalizable PP is very difficult to develop. Where it would so therefore we have to create solutions catering to their particular need and their particular. So our variables are mainly optimized on runtime, weight, cooling temperature, durability, and cost. So, can you go to the next slide, Gautam? Yeah, so these are some of the images of our work at site where we are covering. So what we are doing is we have different models of working. One is we directly work with the companies, either it be the owner or the EHS head of that company, and through them we are able they buy it for their workers. Second is we give it to the company, they subsidize it and resell it to their workers. And third is through NGOs like Mahila Housing Trust that we have done. With under a CSR project, under a broad umbrella of heat stress management initiative, cooling jackets become another initiative that can be done. This model mainly works for street vendors, rickshaw drivers, traffic cops, where the budget is very complicated. So That is a bit about us at Sukoon.
Thank you, Falgun. I think that is a very innovative approach you've taken. I think you have explained in detail the tech behind it and the story also of how you had to like interact with so many kinds of worker to get their views also. Like, could you just like touch upon like what the companies have said and the workers have said like after wearing these things, like the kind of change that they have felt, both the workers as well as the company on like if the company has talked about the productivity or if the worker has told us like how the comfort has increased on those two fronts?
Yeah. So, Gautam, so when we started, our prototypes were really shabby. We got a lot of negative feedback on our earlier prototypes. But due to those feedbacks, we were able to improve to a version where at this level, at different sites, the most important factor is comfort. Because without comfort, even the worker won't wear it. It will get discarded. We have seen this happening where one of our cooling jacket which doesn't suit the context, and we tried it out there, and workers like ye kya le aaya, so they didn't like it. So so this is one of the finer points. And second is with productivity. So one thing that we noticed was the trials that we did, we observed a productivity increase up to 15% at one of the sites. And generally there is a, so it's different at a process industry, you cannot control productivity. It is more dependent on the equipments. And if you consider sectors like construction and delivery riders, you can heavily impact productivity. It can even touch up to 20-25%. And these are numbers from our own trials and from the case studies of developed countries like Japan and Europe and US. Another point here was that for an organization, it is about productivity and safety. And for the worker, it is about health and comfort. So the metrics have to be aligned to both of the stakeholders. That is the one of the difficult. So it needs to be a positive sum game for the person who's buying it and the person who's using it and the person who's making it. So that's where sort of we come in. And so right now, especially the technologies in India are at a very nascent stage. And at Sukun, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be on par and even better with global technologies right now, and at an affordable cost for the Indian ecosystem. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Varun. I think that really covers everything. And you did talk about how the productivity is also increased, and you have like constant interactions with the companies. And I do hope to see like the number of times we do go to sites, we do like hope to see like more workers like wearing these jackets, a cooling jacket, so that they don't have to like go through with the whole heat stress. And with respect to workers, you did like talk about how the first product you mentioned or like designed was like a bit shabby, and it is only through the constant communication or the continuous communication or like interaction with the workers that you've refined the product and you've reached to a stage where like it has become a amazing product which can be like used by all the workers. I think this is also like a good point to like go to the next speaker. If anybody has any questions, you can just put it on the chat. But for the next speaker, they do exactly that. They do like work and like interact with the workers, and that is primarily what they do. Like Himani Naidu is part of like Work Fair and Free Foundation. They do extensively work across India in multiple clusters, industrial clusters, especially talking to migrant workers, talking to informal workers, understanding the kind of problems that they are facing. And I think it came about as a organic issue that they are talking about safety and other aspects, and heat came about as an organic issue that had to be addressed separately. I think I'll just like pass on the mic to Himani just to understand like the kind of findings that you had with the number of interactions you've had with workers as well as like business owners. Over to you, Himani.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So at Work Fair and Free, we work closely with informal and migrant workers across various landscapes, from large factories to small scale factories, from labor nakas to even construction sites. So we believe that informality of work is one of the biggest factors that impact how heat affects workers. So I'll touch upon some aspects of informality and how that correlates to heat. First and foremost, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have found from our fieldwork is that most of the heat action plans or any orders that go out from the local governments do remain unimplemented, especially within the lower tiers of the supply chain. And there are these heat action plans merely act as suggestions, and there's no consequences for them to not be implemented on ground. And secondly, the onus of implementing this, especially within informal units, which are small scale, falls on petty contractors. Now, what I mean by this is that contractors within smaller and informal units also run on thin profit margins. And sometimes we also find instances where contractors do take up work on the shop floor as well. So there's very complicated relationships between the worker and the employer or the contractor within these smaller informal units. So who does the onus of providing these heat protections fall on, and what are the sort of incentives for these informal spaces to create safer spaces for working? Thirdly, because of these uncertain labor conditions, most of the responsibility of protecting themselves from heat falls on the worker. So we have noticed that workers extend their work hours into night shifts because productivity is low during the daytime, which defeats the purpose of securing fair working conditions for them. Secondly, within these industrial units, the conditions are also like, for example, the earlier speaker spoke about like how industrial units needs to have better built conditions. But these clusters are often small and they are within like a larger industrial dense cluster. So even solutions which are structurally possible cannot be implemented here because again, contractors are petty, profit margins are lower. So to think of these solutions also in the last year of our informal economy is also important. Secondly, when work is informal, social security is something that is very imperative for a worker. And most of the social security schemes are based on eligibility criteria of who is called a worker or what is deemed as a work site. So I'll give a small example on the current labor codes on social security, which which does not consider residential sites where construction work is taken up by an individual or a group of individuals for their own residence and does not exceed 50 lakhs. So these construction sites will not be called as construction sites, which means that workers working within these sites will not be eligible for any social security or welfare schemes. And secondly, these sites will not be audited according to the safety standards of other as construction sites should be. So factors like these also affect how protections are implemented on ground. And if there is even a possibility to go and check if services such as water, if safe working conditions are created within the work site itself. Other than this, I think one important aspect is also something that the previous speaker mentioned, that within the factory itself, there are different occupations that workers take up. So we don't have enough data for us to put blanket solutions over working conditions within these uh, uh, industries. Like, for example, within the textile unit itself, a worker who is working with water-intensive processes with fabrics would experience heat very differently because humidity levels within that process is very high than another worker who's within just the assembly line and not near any water-intensive processes. So solutions must account for these micro climatic conditions within the same factory floor itself. Besides this, I think we at Workfare and Free, we also work at a lot of migration destination spots on housing and infrastructure solutions. So we do, oftentimes informality at work also results in informal living spaces. And that also can be seen as a very important juncture where heat action plans or heat protection measures can be implemented. One of the biggest challenges that most of the informal living arrangements, they range from living on construction sites to living within factories itself, even informal settlements within our cities. And most of these areas are not recognized within our urban planning system as residential areas. Hence, they get left out of any provision. Hence, the local governments do not provide for any services within these areas because they're not categorized as such. Again, the onus of providing basic services from water to sanitation again falls on the contractors or the middlemen. And as previously iterated, there are a lot of reasons why these services cannot be provided, they cannot be dependent upon. So accountability in terms of who should provide the services again gets blurred within the informal living and working space. So I think it would be for us to understand who all are the stakeholders within the workers' ecosystem is very imperative. Some solutions which we have noticed, especially with our work in Pune and Bangalore within industrial clusters, is like these resource and infrastructure scarce housing settlements. Some solutions such as water ATMs or providing transportation by the employer has been simple yet effective, especially to deal with heat. So I think basic services and infrastructure are critical steps and almost the first steps to first understand how heat impacts all the workers. Secondly, I wanted to speak a little bit about cool roof solutions. Um, uh, cool roofing solutions, something that we are also trying to implement within our destination cities. And the first thing that we have come across is that when solutions are designed, they need to understand not just the technical feasibility, but also social and economical possibilities of those solutions. So one example would be, for example, cool roof painting white. Painting roofs white has been one of the most common solutions, which has also been proposed in a lot of heat action plans. But on ground, we also see that within informal settlements, roofs are multi-purpose. They are used for storage, they are used for a lot of day-to-day activities. And once the roof is covered, painting it white would not be as effective. So some of these solutions need to be understood very critically in terms of how it's going to be used by the worker themselves. And also, if the solution is technical, like for example, there are cool roofs which are layered roofs, then how would that solution be sustainable such that it is implemented at a larger scale? Can we think of ways in which skilling in building these roofs can also be a part of the whole intervention of cool roofs? Another thing is most of the informal workers are also migrants, and they're short-term and seasonal migrants. So their destination or living or housing is not permanent. So would they be willing to invest in these solutions? And at this point, I think what we are also understanding is that would identifying other stakeholders such as housing owners be more useful in terms of adopting these solutions. So one small example I can give is that during the LPG crisis in Pune, what we saw was the housing owners were the first people to provide workers with gas cylinders and not the employers. That is because workers were vacating rental accommodations. So in these situations, you sort of see that how these different stakeholders come into play and how policies can better be drafted around identifying these multiple people that shape the working and living lives of workers. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Himani. I think you covered a lot of aspects. I think starting from like it's not the lack of legality because there are like action plans that a lot of state governments as well as the central government also like has put across a lot of notifications also on these front, but it's the implementation of it. It becomes a difficult phase that who's supposed to implement this because as you mentioned, like the MSMEs, especially they run on like laser thin margin, and that actually is not enough for them to like work upon anything. And in that stage, it becomes a difficult thing to realize who is going to take up the accountability. There are like multiple people that needs to be taken accountability because the company is there, the contractors are there, and if when both of them don't take up the responsibility, it becomes or like it comes on the worker. It comes on the worker to like take an initiative and like do something about it. That's exactly what we saw in the video also. A lot of times they even like saying that we have the solutions or like we know like some of the solutions. It may not be like scientific, but this is what is work. So I think that also shows like how important it is to like talk to the workers, interact with the workers to understand like what are their solutions. Like it's all like that's also how I think Sukoontech also like came about as like a good product where like people can like easily adapt to it. So I think talking to the workers and understanding the solutions that they want to bring about is very important. So yeah, I think if there are any questions for Himani, you can type in the chat. I think this is like a good point to like transition to the next console. Like Himani did talk about how it is the laser thin margins that is causing MSMEs to like not take up any action. So I think this is also like a stage where we can talk more on the financial dimension of the whole aspect. So I'll just like to invite Mr. Amitesh Ahir. He is the Senior Vice President. Yeah, hi, Amitesh. Yeah, he is the Senior Vice President at Howden Insurance Brokers, and he is going to talk more on that. So you can just like talk about how insurance as a instrument or a tool can like address heat risk in India, and like how climate risk is emerging. Like what are people thinking, not just in the commercial space but also in the insurance space also, like how is it being perceived, because climate risk is like globally a big phenomenon now, everybody's talking about it. You can just like talk about how that is being talked about and how insurance can be more accessible to the MSMEs today, because a lot of times people don't even think about insurance, like getting an insurance. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Amtesh.
Yeah, right. Thanks, and thanks WRI and Social Impact for having me here. And uh, I think the context is already set, and probably I'll just pick it from there. The earlier speakers, Mr. Pandya, Vijay, Phalgun, and in fact Himani as well. And somewhere in fact in the initial the study that was put on the screen by WRI, they have already kind of had one point very highlighted that in the last couple of years, and especially with businesses, and I'm kind of jumping the gun, probably also looking at the time, but coming directly to the MSME, that now the last couple of years, heat is now actually being looked upon as, at least by the the MSME, the industry, as a business risk, right? So if you have asked me this question, let's say, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, being in on the insurance and the parametric insurance side for almost a decade now, heat wave insurance or these solutions, the transferring solutions, risk transfer solutions, they were very niche. There were some pilots that were already done. If you see way back in 2023, probably there was a heat wave program that was done by SEWA along with ICICI Lombard. So there were some focus on it. It was only on the vulnerable communities, logically, because they are the most vulnerable, and they needed support in terms, but then it has still not entered that mainstream insurance or risk management discussions. Slightly to go back, and probably because a lot has been spoken about it also, and you all, those who all are part of this ecosystem, so to say, they know that we have heat action plans, and with the first heat action plan, and this is very much available on the Google, anyone can go and have a look at it, was a very standalone kind of thing way back in 1998 in Odisha. And then you cut to 2010, there was a very severe heat wave event in Ahmedabad, led to a lot of fatalities, and probably around 2013, the first heat action plan came into form. And till date, there are talks. As of now, only some state levels, they have declared heat as an hazard, which effectively gives them access to the state level disaster funds. But at a national level, and though NDMA is very proactively doing this discussion, it is still to be recognized as a national disaster, so that the states, further the communities, the industry segments, they can access the available NDRF funds. We all knew temperatures are rising. We knew that the industry also, they knew that, and it was mentioned by Mr. Pandian also, that it resulted in absenteeism. Workers were suffering. So purely from an insurance perspective, from the space where I come from, and what I'll be talking about, heat was still viewed as something that either the government is going to do something about it through the heat action plans, or the employers are managing it through their workspace safety measures, or the kind of health insurance that they used to take. So somehow it was that kind of mindset was there. But like I said, in the last couple of years, corporates started looking at that as a business risk, like you guys mentioned in the study. And when we now today talk to, and when I say we, as in Howden India, our organization, my colleagues who are interacting with corporates for their so many other insurance needs. And when we talk to these corporates, especially where you have a lot of outdoor workforce, either construction, logistics, warehousing, agriculture, gig workers is a very new thing. And the conversation is actually increasingly moving towards the lost working hours. right? Productivity impacts, again, absenteeism, as Mr. Pandian mentioned, and slightly on the workforce safety also. I remember last year some clients, they were not asking us that whether temperatures are going to increase or not. They were asking us that what can we do about it? Can you give some solutions? And like I said, the insurance industry has started responding to it. It had already started responding, but the industry as a whole is in an experimentation phase, uh, not the scale phase as of now. That is changing though, like I said. For example, at Howden India, and I was very happy to see that Mr. Phalgun mentioned about their work at Sukoon with MHT. So we have been working on heat-related solutions, and we work through a very from a resilience lens, so to say, which means that we include initiative with organizations like MHT. We've been working with them for the past 3 years, where we have rolled out heat wave insurance for women, daily wage workers, and cooperative account holders. But where the focus is not only on insurance payout. See, that is a very important thing to understand also. It is also on protecting these vulnerable communities, particularly women, and also, like I said, the gig workers, more of outdoor workforce community, because the heat stress is increasing. It goes without saying it. On part of challenges, probably I don't know if you asked, but I could see that where there are certain challenges, and probably that is also another reason why MSME or the marginalized communities, they are not able to take a decision whether to go about it or not, is because, see, floods and cyclones as a whole, as a general notion, we see, or the industry see that from a very different lens. And we used to see heat waves in a very different way. If flood damage happens to a building, the loss is very much visible. Very simple. I'm putting it very simply. With the heat, the impact is often hidden. Productivity drops, workers fall sick more frequently. Business does lose operational efficiency, but it was very difficult. It is still difficult to kind of isolate and measure that loss, right? So that is where it is difficult for organizations, for corporates, for MSMEs. Again, I'm linking it to the MSME, that whether they should go for traditional insurance versus climate risk insurance, especially for heat wave for their workers. Is there a need for that? Because it is not visible like any other damage. And that is where the upcoming and the parametric insurance, the climate based insurance, this concept becomes very interesting. If you see very quick on how it works, so that the audience at large could understand it, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Instead of talking about the exact loss that has happened after an event, where in generally, if you see the typical traditional insurance product, there is an assessment, there is a survey sometimes happen, there is a process to assess the loss, and accordingly a payout is there. In this kind of insurance, the climate insurance, heat wave insurance, everything is agreed upon upfront on a certain benchmark or a trigger, so to say, that okay, if a temperature exceeds a certain threshold for a specific period, the payout is activated. Nobody has to intimate anyone. The insurer, all the other entities involved, they keep an eye on it. It's a pre-agreed thing. The vulnerable community gets a claim payout in the most swiftest form that is possible. So the concept is relatively straightforward. What is hard is, it is harder to, the harder part is rather to make it work at a scale. Like I said, so one challenge used to be data. I'm using the word used to be. It is not anymore. It is only that how to prove a value proposition to the clients. Again, like I said, MSME, and it was already mentioned somewhere earlier by the earlier speakers. They have so many other things, debts and cost benefit analysis, what they do versus other large corporates. So they really have to see whether there is a value proposition for them or not in this. But businesses today, they know that heat is a problem. What we have not what they have not reached at is a stage where they can allocate budgets to this. So that is one important thing. And probably last to this thing, and if I would want to say that, see, I understand and the industry also understand, as far as the insurance industry is concerned, that insurance alone cannot solve this heat stress problem. Right. So all the mitigations and everything that is being done, if they don't have access to cooling, drinking water, shades, early warning systems, modified work gear, modified working schedules, then even the best insurance product is only going to address some part of the problem. Right. So from my perspective, the future is, and this is changing actually, is combining the risk reduction aspect and the risk transfer aspect. So risk reduction becomes all these mitigation, engagements, intervention, and then the risk transfer becomes that you have mitigated, you have taken steps to do enough for the higher frequency and lower severity kind of events, and then you transfer the risk, take a heat wave insurance for lower, less frequency but high severity events, like it is happening nowadays. Out of 100 top cities in the world, 90 are in India only with heat wave. So don't treat these as separate conversations. Treat these as one single conversation. Try to have this in your other mitigation aspects. Have a risk transfer a part of that also.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay. I think you've covered pretty well. I think with respect to the parametric insurance also, I think the kind of awareness that is there in India is pretty low. I think you did explain it very well for anyone to understand. I think we have a diverse audience also, like people from business owners to even students of colleges. So I think it would have probably explained it well to them to understand what is parametric insurance and the kind of variety also. And you also mentioned the kind of penetration that's there in other countries. But could you just touch upon the kind of penetration that parametric insurance has in India, and if it is mostly bigger companies, or do MSMEs also utilize it as of now? And what can make it easier for the MSMEs to just utilize it is the last question I want to ask.
Sure. So I'll take the last part of your question first. Like I said, because it logically goes with what I was already saying, that see, MSMEs, in a very candid way, I would put it, they kind of wake up every morning thinking about cash flow, labor availability, like Mr. Padia was already mentioning, keeping their business running, right? Heat insurance is absolutely not their first thing, not the first thing on their mind, right? So if we want scale, I would say the solution has to, start with their problem, not what I have to offer, right? So from what I have seen, 2 or 3 things will be, very critical. First is that we need better evidence of the economic impact. Yes, which means that we need to have more such programs. There are payouts. We need to talk about it. In fact, and we all agree that heat is increasing. The debate is not about whether the climate is changing or not, if it is happening. The challenge is helping these businesses understand what is costing them, right? So we need to get more involved with them. They also have to open up and discuss lost labor hours, lower productivity, medical incident, supply chain disruptions, and so on and so forth. So the financial discussion becomes much easier, and then one can always see how to make it viable for them. Second, and for me, the most important thing, and I saw a lot of engagements done by our previous speakers, is about aggregation. So I don't think so individual heat policies are going to do anything for a company at this time, right? It is all, and India especially, we've always scaled through platforms, communities, and institutions. When you see even a large government scheme, so whether it's a self-help group, industry associations, gig worker platforms, municipality, ULBs they're taking, or MSME clusters like in Chennai, these aggregation models are going to be far more effective than the retail approach. And last, I think a public-private collaboration is something which goes, it goes without saying. Heat challenge alone is it's very bigger than the insurance sector. Government is already investing in heat action plans, we all know, but do they have a heat transfer component to it? I don't think so. It is there. It is about warnings, about mitigation, but no heat risk transfer part. Development organizations, they are also So again, MHT, so many other we are working with are investing in resilience, WRI, social impact. I'm sure you guys are also working in some form or another. Employers are investing in this safety. So insurers and reinsurers can only bring the risk capital and product innovation, right? So I think on the MSME side, it is this. You asked about the penetration. Yes, in India, there's a lot of awareness now. We are doing, and there are so many other organizations who are doing, but it is not only limited to the vulnerable community, to the social sector also. There is a lot happening on the corporate side also. And when I say corporate side, there are a lot of other risks which we call as non-damage business interruption. An industry or an organization or an MSME need not to have a physical visible damage only. There could be business interruption. So the Chennai floods, probably, yes, it did have a lot of property loss also, but let's say if you're not able to access your workplace, and everything else is there, so you have revenue losses. So it's basically a non-damage business interruption. So a lot of corporates are also taking it. A lot of port clients, a lot of renewable energy clients on the corporate side, they are taking it. For the vulnerable community and MSME, again, like I said, who's going to pay the premium, where the aggregation is needed, where that funding is coming from, what should be the right kind of product. Like I said, you need not to have, for an example, you in daily today, if you're going to take a heat insurance product for 41 degree, it's going to be absolutely not viable economically, because that is a given 41 is going to happen. You design a product for 46 degree, right, which is the severe kind of event. So I think if all this thing can come together, if we can piece all these things together, we can actually become one of the global leaders in heat risk financing and product innovation. What is changing now is that, as we all know, heat is not only discussed as a social protection, it is also being discussed as a productivity and business continuity issue.
Thank you, Mr. Amitesh. I think you've covered pretty much everything now. If people have any questions, you can put down in the chat. We will address them. But for now, I'll just hand it over to Ananya just to wrap up the session, as well as look at the responses that we've got also.
Thanks, Gautam. I think there's one question for Amitesh. I know we are already over time, but Amitesh, maybe you could take a couple of minutes to reflect on if there's something around parametric heat insurance for gig workers and delivery workers.
Yeah, sure. So I'll keep it simple. The simplest is yes. Like I said, I mentioned gig workers also, and again, it's not only heat stress. I understand the discussion is about that, but equally, the rainfall, urban flooding, we all know. It's not a concept anymore. Probably most of us are from the cities only, and the likes of Bangalore, Chennai's, and Jaipur's nowadays, Gurgaon for that matter. I'm sitting based out of Delhi NCR. We know that, and who gets impacted? Of course, we all get impacted, but these are the people. This is the community, the workforce which gets impacted. Yes, so there are products for that. They get customized, and the only thing is that how we are going to roll it out. As in, there has to be a aggregator, or there has to be an organization in between, so that we can collaborate. We can bring all these together and stitch a good, very apt program for them, which can actually take care of their livelihood, and not only livelihood. You see, when we are ordering from Zomato, you get that there is you have no rider around because it's raining. The riders, they do get the notification. Now they take a call whether they have to go, because they have to earn. If still it's raining, they will take that call, and if they are taking a chance on their health and safety. So yes, it's not only that, and because of heat, they might get lesser orders. It doesn't only mean that it's lesser orders. They are also sometimes taking more risks to cover that up. So they're spending more on their health and all that. So, like I said, in short, the answer is yes. Happy to engage separately if there is something already. In Tasmita, if that was a question on your mind, we can have a discussion on that. And there are discussions going on already on this.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Amitesh. Hello, everyone. I think we're already over time, but if in case there are any other questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. Maybe we could take a couple of more minutes If not, it would be really useful to kind of hear your reflections as the audience about what would businesses or workers need to adopt. We discussed a lot of practices today. We discussed architectural solutions, innovations to technologies like cooling vests. We talked about how worker safety can actually be also a sociological and economic issue. We talked about how parametric risk insurance and other financial products can benefit businesses and workers. So what are some of the kind of, help required to adopt some of these practices by businesses, if there are any reflections around that? And why you could type your responses in the chat. In case there are any other questions, also happy to hear that. You have our email IDs, you have like the email ID of the organizing team. So also feel free to reach out to us in case you want to collaborate on this topic. And I want to take this opportunity to also say thank you to all the speakers who were there with us today. It was a really enlightening and rich discussion about something that's really topical today. Like Delhi was just experiencing extreme heat waves till yesterday, and then it rained. So also heat is getting a very the weather is also getting very unpredictable sometimes, and there can be so much that we do not only for heat, like Amitesh mentioned, but also for other climate risks. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Social Compact team and the WRI team who worked behind the scenes for making this possible. And the biggest thanks to all the participants who actively were here, engaged with us, and had this really participatory conversation with us. So thanks to all of you. Thank you.